Please, I'm in so much pain, the alien girl pleaded. All her bones were broken. She was moaning in agony. It was a rainy day on Kronos Station as rain droplets fell like bullets on Marcus Vega's armor. Kronos was a space metropolis, once far more glorious. Marcus Vega walked slowly through Kronos' filthy streets. His armor restricted his movement. It was heavy, with his weapon and bag on him. Rain droplets ran down his dark skin. The planet's atmosphere had exhausted him, and all he could think about was resting as soon as possible. Apollo, come, he called to his dog. Apollo was a massive Doberman. His fur was soaked flat from the rain, but he was alert at all times, constantly watching their surroundings in the dirty street they walked. They had just left Drell's veterinary clinic, a filthy establishment that treated various creatures belonging to the station's non-human residents. Marcus didn't want to go to that vet, but something had gotten stuck in his dog's paw. It was the only veterinarian on the Kronos planet. Damn alien station, Marcus muttered, his voice drowned out by the rain. The whole place is covered in filth. We can't even walk. The station had buildings that looked like they could collapse at any moment, most of them dilapidated. There were purple street lamps. No one wanted to stop at Kronos. Marcus traveled alone. His best friend was Apollo. Marcus was a military pilot. After he retired, he traveled the planets with his companion. After they'd gone a ways and reached an even dirtier, more neglected street, Apollo suddenly stopped and sensed something. What is it? Apollo, Marcus said, then took his pistol in hand. Apollo growled softly. He ran ahead and began sniffing at a pile of rags leaning against the wall. As Marcus approached, he realized it was a blanket. From under the blanket, a faint voice said, "Kill me, please, I can't bear it." It was a woman speaking, and she was writhing in pain. Marcus knelt down, gently lifted the blanket, and his breath caught when he saw the woman's face. She was a young alien. Her green skin had turned pale. Her hair was disheveled. Both the rain and the ground's filth were smeared on her face. She looked at Marcus with glowing eyes. Marcus asked in a low voice, "What happened to you?" "Everything's broken. I can't move." "Kill me," the alien said. Apollo growled at the girl. The alien girl was frightened. Then Apollo licked her hand in a gesture and calmed her. Marcus picked up the alien girl and said, "You're not going to die. Calm down. I'm taking you to the hospital. What would you do if you were in this situation?" "I'm waiting for your comments." The alien girl said, "No hospital. They'll find me there. I know a doctor. I'll take you to him." Marcus's acquaintance, Dr. Zoll, was a successful doctor who understood medicine. His patients were usually animals, but he had come to mind he was someone Marcus knew and trusted. As Marcus carried the alien girl away, he could feel her broken bones. There was something strange about her body protrusions, deformities. Marcus had worked as a pilot in the military for years, and afterward traveled planets as an explorer, but the planets, galaxies, and stations he visited hadn't dulled his humanity. Compassion and helpfulness had always been part of him. Marcus walked slowly through the dirty planet streets toward the station. He had passed 2 streets. The purple lamps and the sound of rain had mentally exhausted him as well. Suddenly, 3 large aliens blocked his path. The ones blocking his way were of the Kronos type, one of the most terrifying alien species. They had made Kronos Station their dwelling. Their leather-like gray skin and multiple arms made them feared enforcers in the station's criminal underworld. "Where do you think you're going?" said the biggest one. Marcus hesitated, gently lowered the woman in his arms to the ground. Apollo's ears perked up, and he began to growl. "You're carrying something that doesn't belong to you," they said. "She's injured. She needs help," Marcus said. The Kronos leader lunged forward. His face was covered with scars. "The Viridian woman belongs to Broker Vorn. He paid good money for her, and he doesn't appreciate his investments escaping." They blocked the entire street. They had electroshock batons in their hands that could easily incapacitate a person. "Either you leave the girl and walk away, or we'll knock you out and take you to Vorn too." He signaled Apollo to guard the girl. Marcus took his position as the systems in his armor hummed to life in the silence. He pulled out his collapsible steel baton. "Clear the way, or I'll have to send pieces of you to your boss." The aliens laughed. "There sounds like a tractor running. How would you feel, and what would you do in this situation? Let's meet in the comments. If you've enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. How are you going to beat 3 of us? Do humans always have to be stupid? They attacked at once. moving with surprising speed for their size. Marcus dodged the first attacker, using his momentum to slam him into the wall. The second swung his shock baton in a wide arc, but Marcus's armor absorbed the blow while he struck his own weapon into the alien's knee joint. With a sickening crack, the leader was more careful, circling around as his companions regrouped. Too bad. We're getting extra money for your head, human. Better men than you have tried to collect it. Marcus replied, settling into a fighting stance. The fight was brutal and brief. Marcus moved with practical efficiency, years of combat experience showing in every strike. When it was over, all three Kravashi lay groaning on the wet asphalt. Their weapons scattered around them. Marcus turned to the woman, breathing hard. We need to keep moving. They'll call for reinforcements. As he knelt to pick her up, their eyes met. Despite her pain, there was something in her gaze, admiration, perhaps even attraction. You fought for me, she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. No one's ever done that. Let's get you somewhere safe first, Marcus replied. Though he couldn't deny the strange pull he felt toward her, something primal and unexpected stirred within him. She grimaced, but managed to pull her delicate green hand from under the blanket, placing it on his armored chest. My name is Sera, she said. Thank you, Marcus Vega, he replied, surprised by the warmth spreading through him at her touch. And this is Apollo. The dog wagged his tail when his name was mentioned, staying close as they proceeded. How did you end up with someone like Vorn? Marcus asked as he followed the back alleys to avoid further confrontation. Sera's glowing eyes clouded. My people, the Viridians, are rare in this sector. Our physiology is considered exotic. Her cheeks turned a darker green, her species' way of blushing. Vorn traffics in rarities. When my research vessel was attacked, he saw an opportunity. Marcus felt a surge of anger. And did he break every bone in your body? Not personally. His clients have specific preferences. She looked away. When I resisted, they made an example of me. The implications made Marcus's jaw clench. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Sera studied his face with her otherworldly eyes. Why are you helping me? Most people in this sector mind their own business. I'm not most people, Marcus simply replied. A small smile appeared on her lips despite her pain, transforming her face. No, she softly acknowledged. You certainly aren't. As they approached the veterinary clinic, Marcus became acutely aware of Sera's body pressed against his chest. Even through his armor, he felt the strange warmth she radiated, making him feel vulnerable yet resilient. It awakened protective instincts he'd long suppressed and other unexpected feelings. Sera seemed equally affected. Her fingers traced small patterns on the armor she clung to, and her eyes rarely left his face. Almost there, Marcus said, noticing his voice came out rougher than intended. I know, Sera replied softly, her tone carrying more than just acknowledgement of their destination. Dr. Zoltek's compound eyes widened as Marcus burst through the clinic door with Sera in his arms. Apollo behind him, by the hive, Vega. What have you brought me this time? The Wexelin veterinarian's mandibles chattered excitedly as he scurried forward on 6 thin legs. She needs help, Marcus said, gently laying her on the examination table. Vorn's men did this. Zoltek's antennae twitched at the name. Vorn. You've gotten yourself into an ugly business this time, human. He leaned over Sera, carefully pulling back the blanket. His compound eyes flickered, the Wexelin equivalent of widening in shock. A Viridian female. Rare, valuable, and completely destroyed. Sera's eyes fluttered open, focusing on the insectoid doctor. Can you help me? She whispered. Zoltek's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps. I have experimental regeneration technology not approved for use on sentient beings, but he looked at Marcus. It's either that or I euthanize her. Do it, Marcus said firmly. The process is excruciatingly painful, Zoltek warned. It takes days, not hours. I can endure pain, Sera said quietly, her eyes meeting Marcus's. I've already endured so much. In that moment, something passed between them, an unspoken connection that tightened Marcus's chest. He reached out, taking her delicate green hand in his callous one. I'll stay with you, he promised. Zoltek made a chittering sound that might have meant amusement. Very well, but you'll need to remove that armor. This will take a while, and I don't want you clanking around frightening my other patients. As Zoltek prepared his equipment, Marcus reluctantly went to the side room to remove his protective gear. Underneath, he wore a black compression suit that revealed his muscular build, the result of military service. followed by mercenary work and planetary exploration. When he returned, Zoltek was attaching various tubes and sensors to Sera's broken body. The blanket had been replaced with a medical sheet that covered her better, though Marcus could still see the unnatural angles of her limbs beneath it. The reconstitution compound will first restore skeletal structure, Zoltek explained, inserting N4 into Sera's arm, then muscle tissue, then nerves. Each phase is uncomfortable. I understand, Sera said, looking at Marcus. Zoltek administered the first injection. Almost immediately, Sera arched her back, a strangled scream escaping her lips. Marcus held her hand, letting her squeeze hard enough that he thought his fingers might break. I'm here, he whispered. Focus on my voice. Hours passed like this. Sera drifted between consciousness and merciful unconsciousness as the reconstitution compound worked through her body. When awake, she clung to Marcus's hand like a lifeline, her glowing eyes fixed on him. During one lucid moment, as dawn broke outside the clinic, she managed a small smile. You have kind eyes, she whispered. For a predator species, Marcus chuckled softly. You have remarkable strength for someone currently without solid bones. Her laugh came like wind chimes, though it quickly transformed into a grimace of pain. My people believe pain is the pathway to transformation, she said through gritted teeth. I must be transforming quite significantly. Into what? Marcus asked, trying to distract her. Her eyes held his, and the strange attraction between them intensified into something stronger, something worthy of a warrior's attention. The flirtation in her tone was obvious. Despite himself, Marcus felt heat rise to his face, an unusual feeling for a man who prided himself on composure. You already have my attention, he admitted at that moment. Zoltek turned, checking Sera's vital functions. Remarkable, he chirped. Her body is accepting the compound twice as fast as expected. Viridian physiology is fascinating. How long until she's mobile? Marcus asked, suddenly fully focused on business again. At this regeneration rate, Zoltek paused, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. There are other aspects of Viridian biology you should know about. Vega, his compound eyes moved. Between them, their healing processes are accelerated by certain biochemical reactions, specifically those produced during moments of intense connection. Sera's skin turned a darker green. Doctor, please, she murmured, embarrassed. I'm merely stating biological facts. Zoltek continued, unaffected. Viridians evolved as a deeply empathic species. Their bodies respond to emotional and physical bonds by secreting healing compounds. Quite remarkable. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Zoltek chittered, moving toward the door. Just explaining xenobiology. What you do with this information is your business. He paused at the door. I'll secure the clinic. Bourne's men will come looking eventually. After he left, an odd silence fell between Marcus and Sera. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. He's not wrong, she admitted. My people heal faster when bonded with another. Marcus ran his hand through his short hair. That's quite an evolutionary advantage. A small smile played on her lips. We're a passionate species by nature, she said, squeezing his fingers. But I would never assume. I want to help, Marcus interrupted, surprising himself with his eagerness. However I can. Their gazes locked, and something electric passed between them. Desire mixed with something deeper, something neither of them expected to find in this bleak corner of the galaxy. Then stay close, Sera whispered, gently pulling him toward her. And we'll see what transformations await us. The attack came at twilight on the second day of Sera's treatment. Marcus had just finished a quick meal of reconstituted rations when Apollo's ears perked up, and he growled softly. Seconds later, Dr. Zoltek scurried into the room, his mandibles chattering wildly. Proximity sensors triggered, the Wexland chittered. Multiple signatures approaching from all directions. Marcus was instantly on his feet. How many? At least 10. Heavy weapons. Zoltek's compound eyes moved nervously. This is more than a simple retrieval team. Vega, they're here to eliminate loose ends. Marcus looked at Sera, sitting up on the examination table. Her recovery over the past 36 hours had been remarkable. The reconstitution compound had restored most of her major bone structure. Though she was still weak and in pain, the growing bond between them had indeed accelerated her healing, especially after spending the previous night in his arms. Discovering the fascinating compatibility between human and Viridian physiology. Is she mobile? Marcus asked, already reaching for his armor. Not safely, Zoltek replied. The compound is still active in her system. Sudden exertion could reverse the healing process. Sera's glowing eyes met Marcus's. I won't let you die here because of me, she said with determination. No one's dying today, except maybe some of Orn's thugs, Marcus replied, fastening his chest plate. He turned to Zoltek. What defenses does this place have? It's a medical facility, not a fortress, Zoltek chirped. But I've had difficult clients before. He scurried to a wall console, pressing his spiked appendage against it. A section of wall slid open, revealing an impressive weapons cache. Wow, Doctor, you're full of surprises. Even pets bite on this station, Zoltek replied. Marcus selected a shotgun and several sidearms, securing them to his armor. Get Sera to your most secure room. Apollo stays with her. The Doberman ran to Sera, positioning himself protectively in front of her. What are you going to do? Sera asked, worry in her voice. Marcus checked the shotgun's charge, his mind already planning tactics. Before she could protest, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers, a gesture that had become increasingly familiar. Over the past day, the kiss was brief but intense, filled with promises neither spoke aloud. For luck, he murmured against her lips, humans and their superstitions. She replied with a small smile, though her fingers lingered on his armored wrist. Be careful, Marcus. I always am. The first explosion shook the building as Zoltek was helping Sera into the reinforced back room. Marcus positioned himself by a window, watching shadowy figures move toward the clinic in the darkness. The attackers were a mixed species mercenaries hired for this job, not Vorn's usual thugs. This was no longer about recovering valuable property. This was about eliminating witnesses. Marcus waited until the attackers were in range, then opened fire. The shotgun roared as it discharged, immediately dropping two attackers. The others scattered, returning fire, shattering the clinic's windows and scorching the walls. Marcus used the building's layout to his advantage, moving from window to window, firing and retreating. The tactic made it seem like there were multiple defenders, something he'd learned in his military days. Make enough noise, look like a whole platoon. He was so focused on the frontal assault that he almost missed the sound of breaking glass. From the back of the clinic, Marcus ran down the corridor, arriving just in time as a massive draconian or reptilian mercenary race, known for their strength, burst through an armored door. The door leading to where Sera was hiding. The draconian turned, narrowing his yellow eyes at the sight of Marcus. Human, he hissed, drawing a vibra sword humming with deadly energy. There's a premium on your head. Going to be disappointed, Marcus replied, raising his shotgun. The draconian moved with surprising speed, batting the weapon aside before Marcus could fire. The vibroblade struck his armor, leaving sparking scratches in the metal. Marcus countered with a series of strikes aimed at the reptile's vulnerable throat and eyes. But the mercenary was well trained, blocking most of the blows. They crashed through equipment and supplies. Engaged in brutal close combat, a particularly hard strike sent Marcus staggering backward. The draconian pressed his advantage, aiming the vibroblade at Marcus's unprotected neck. But then Apollo burst from the shadows, powerful jaws clamping onto the reptile's arm, making him scream in pain. The distraction was all Marcus needed. He drew his pistol and fired 3 shots into the reptile's chest dot as the draconian collapsed. Marcus ran to the back room. Sera, she was leaning against the wall, her green skin pale with fear, but otherwise unharmed. Beside her, Zoltek held a medical laser repurposed as a weapon. There are too many. The Wexelin chirped. We need to leave now. My ship is docked in the commercial sector, Marcus said, helping Sera to her feet. If we can reach it. Wait, Sera interrupted, her eyes suddenly distant. Something's wrong. These aren't just mercenaries, they're coordinated to professional. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? Vorn isn't just a broker, she said, her voice hard. He has connections with the Galactic Syndicate. They control smuggling networks across 3 sectors. Her gaze met Marcus's. They don't just want me back. They want to make sure we can't testify about their operations. Marcus swore softly. The Syndicate was bad news, a crime organization whose tentacles reached into legitimate governments and corporations across the galaxy. If they were involved, this situation had become exponentially more dangerous. One more reason to get you off this rock, he said, checking his weapons. Can you walk? Sera nodded, though her legs trembled slightly as she stood. The regeneration isn't complete, but I'm stronger than I look. She placed her hand on his armored chest. The touch felt even through the metal, especially after last night. Despite their dangerous circumstances, warmth flared between them at the memory of their intimate encounter, the surprising compatibility of their bodies, the way her skin became bioluminescent at the height of passion, the confessions whispered afterward in the darkness. Save that thought for when we're safe in hyperspace, Marcus said with a brief grin. Right now we need to move. They slipped through maintenance tunnels beneath Zoltek's clinic, the Wexelin nervously chirping as he sealed the entrance behind them. Commercial sector is to sectors north, Marcus said, checking his tactical display. If we stay in the back alleys, we can make it. They're waiting at the end of this tunnel. Sera interjected, her voice eerily certain. 3 of them, armed with sonic disruptors. Marcus looked at her. How do you know that? Sera's glowing eyes seemed even brighter in the dark tunnel. I can sense them. Their intentions, their positions. She touched her temple, grimacing slightly. It started after the reconstitution treatments. When danger is near, it's like a pressure in my head. Viridians are rumored to have latent psionic abilities, Zoltek added. The reconstitution compound may have stimulated neural pathways normally dormant in your species. Marcus raised an eyebrow. So you're saying you're telepathic now? I'm not reading your thoughts, if that's what concerns you, Sera said with some amusement. I just sense hostility and directed aggression. She pointed to a side passage. We should go this way. There are fewer minds there. Marcus hesitated only briefly, then nodded. Lead the way, with Sera guiding them. They navigated the labyrinthine underground of Kronos Station, Sera steering them away from danger with supernatural precision. Apollo stayed close by her side, as if the Doberman sensed her new abilities and instinctively trusted them. Your dog understands more than most sentient species, Sera noted as Apollo gave a warning bark at a sound his enhanced senses hadn't yet detected. Animals from Earth have good instincts, Marcus replied, checking the next corner and signaling to proceed. Humans learned to trust them long before we reached the stars. My people have no such companions, Sera said wistfully, stroking Apollo's fur. Perhaps that's why we developed this sensitivity instead. A distant explosion shook the tunnel, raining dust from the ceiling. They're getting desperate, Marcus muttered. Destroying infrastructure to flush us out. The Syndicate doesn't care about collateral damage, Sera said bitterly. Half the authorities in this sector are in their pockets. They emerged from the tunnels into an industrial area. Automated factories spewed steam into Kronos Station's perpetually gray sky. In the distance, they could see the commercial sector and spaceport, its neon signs a stark contrast to the industrial gloom around them. We need to cross this plaza, Marcus said, indicating the wide-open area between factory complexes. At least 50 meters, no cover. Sera closed her eyes, concentrating. There's a patrol, she said after a moment, moving in a standard pattern, but something's off. They're coordinated, too disciplined to be just mercenaries, special forces. Marcus concluded grimly. The Syndicate must have brought in elite units. Can we go round? Zoltek chittered nervously. That would add at least an hour to our route, and they're establishing a perimeter. The longer we wait, the tighter the net becomes. Suddenly, Sera grabbed Marcus's arm. They're adjusting their pattern. They know we're here. Her eyes widened. A tracker. Something is giving away our position. Marcus's mind raced. Then he turned to Zoltek. The reconstitution compound. Does it have a unique energy signature? The Wexelin's antennae drooped. Yes. Highly regulated technology. Easily detectable with the right equipment, which the Syndicate certainly has. Marcus cursed. We can't run from them. We have to go through them. Fear in Sera's eyes gave way to determination. Then we use my ability. I can sense where they are. I'll guide you to their weak points. Marcus studied her face. The green-skinned woman before him was no longer the broken figure he'd found days ago. The regeneration had restored her physically, but something else had changed too. She developed a confidence and mental strength that matched his own determination. It'll be dangerous, he warned. Everything has been dangerous since I met you, she replied with a small smile. And yet I'm still here, no longer begging for death. Their gazes met. In that moment, the bond between them deepened beyond physical attraction and situational alliance. Marcus saw in her a partner, someone who complemented human determination with alien intuition. All right, he said, checking his weapons. Zoltek, you stay with Apollo. If we don't make it, go to the human embassy in the capital sector. Tell them everything about the Syndicate's operations. The Wexelin nodded gravely. Good luck, Vega. Your species' recklessness is exceeded only by your extraordinary ability to survive impossible odds. Marcus grinned. It's what we do best. He turned to Sera, their faces close. Ready? Wait, she said softly, placing her hands on his armored chest. If this doesn't work, I want you to know that what happened between us wasn't just healing. My people bond quickly, but rarely as deeply as I've bonded with you. Marcus covered her hands with his. Humans take longer to form bonds, he admitted. But when we do, we hold on. Whatever happens out there, we'll face it together. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers, an alien yet familiar gesture. Together, she whispered. They separated. Marcus readied his shotgun. Sera closed her eyes and extended her senses across the plaza. 3 snipers on the rooftops, she murmured. 6-person ground team moving in standard pincer formation. Their commander is in the north building. I can feel him directing them through his concentration. Sera's eyes flew open. There's a gap in their coverage, but it's moving. We have 7 seconds to cross the southeast corner of the plaza before they reposition. Marcus nodded, impressed by the precision of her information. On your mark. Sera's eyes narrowed in concentration. 3 to now. They burst from cover, sprinting across the exposed plaza. Marcus felt completely vulnerable, trusting Sera blindly. Halfway across, Sera suddenly pushed him aside. Sniper, she shouted as a high-energy round scorched the ground where he'd just been standing. Marcus rolled to his feet, returning fire at a position Sera sensed more than saw. A satisfying cry of pain confirmed his hit. Keep moving, he called, covering their advance with suppressing fire. They reached the other side of the plaza as the patrol realized their positions. Sirens wailed across the sector as they plunged into a labyrinth of cargo containers. Thanks to Sera's extrasensory perception, they navigated the maze faster than any tactical screen could manage. You're incredible, Marcus said breathlessly as they paused in the shadow of a massive shipping crane. Her green skin was flushed with exertion, her silver hair wild around her face. We make a good team, she replied, her eyes bright with adrenaline and something more intimate. Your human adaptability, my viridian intuition, a great combination, Marcus agreed, taking a moment to appreciate how beautiful she looked in that moment, wild and alive. So different from the broken being begging for death he'd found days ago. The spaceport is just beyond that security checkpoint, Sera said, pointing ahead. But they're concentrating their forces there. I sense dozens of hostile minds. Marcus checked his ammunition. That we need a distraction. He accessed a maintenance terminal built into a nearby kiosk. Cover me. I need to get into the port security network. Sera took position at the corner, stretching her newly discovered senses to their limits. Hurry. I sense a change in their pattern. Something shifted. Marcus pried open the terminal's housing, connected his armor's interface module, and let his fingers fly over the holographic display. Standard Kronos security architecture, sloppy programming, too many backdoors. He grinned as the system yielded to his intrusion. Thank you, corrupt alien bureaucracy. What exactly are you doing? Sera asked, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Creating chaos with a final command. Marcus triggered emergency protocols in 6 different sectors of the spaceport. Alarms blared, fire suppression systems activated, and security doors slammed shut in a cascade of artificial crises. That should thin them out, he said, disconnecting from the terminal. Let's move while they're confused. Sera's expression suddenly changed, her glowing eyes widening. Something's wrong. There's a presence goal and calculating, different from the others. She grabbed Marcus's arm. He's here. Vorn is here. Marcus swore softly. Can you locate him? She closed her eyes, concentrating. Dock 17. Near the ship. He's waiting for us. He knew we'd come here. Of course he did, Marcus muttered. My ship is registered in my name. Not exactly subtle. There's something else, Sera said quietly. He's not alone. There's some kind of mental blocker. I can sense him clearly. But whoever's with him are just shadows. Psi blockers, Marcus explained. High-tech, military grade. Means his guards are elite. They crouched behind stacks of cargo containers, watching the final approach to the dock. Syndicate forces were indeed responding to the false alarms. Their numbers in the vicinity depleted as they investigated the disruptions. We need a new plan, Marcus said. If Vorn is waiting at my ship, I have an idea, Sera replied, her eyes gleaming with determination. But you need to trust me completely. I already do, Marcus answered without hesitation, surprising himself with the truth of that statement. In just a few days, this alien woman had earned the trust he rarely gave. Her green lips curved into a smile. Good, because I need you to let them capture me. Absolutely not, Marcus growled. Listen, she insisted. Vaughn wants me alive on valuable merchandise, but he wants you dead. If I surrender and create a distraction, you can approach from behind. Too dangerous. Marcus objected. You're not fully healed yet. Sera touched his face, her fingers cool on his skin. I'm stronger than I look, remember, and I can sense their intentions. If they're going to harm me, I'll know. Marcus placed his hand over hers. I don't like this. You don't have to like it, she replied. You just need to trust that I can handle myself. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his that oddly intimate alien gesture. My people aren't warriors like humans, but we have our own strengths. The moment between them was charged with everything they'd been through together, from her desperate plea for death, to the passionate night that accelerated her healing, to her guidance through enemy patrols, to this final gambit for freedom. Okay, Marcus finally conceded, but at the first sign of real danger, I'm coming in guns blazing. I wouldn't expect anything less, she replied with a smile that was both tender and mischievous. They reluctantly separated. Marcus circled wide around the dock while Sera walked directly forward, surrendering herself to Syndicate guards. They escorted her to the dock where Vaughn waited. Marcus positioned himself on a maintenance catwalk overlooking the dock, providing a perfect vantage point. Below, he could see his ship, the Pathfinder, a modified human intervention vessel that had carried him through countless adventures across the galaxy. Beside it sat an elegant black ship that screamed crime lord, and Vaughn himself tall and ostentatious, a variant with corpse pale skin and eyes like polished obsidian. He wore an impeccably tailored suit that didn't hide the predatory nature beneath civilization's veneer. My dear Viridian researcher, Vaughn's voice carried clearly to Marcus's position. What a disappointment that you become damaged goods. The reconstitution treatment was quite effective, she replied coldly. Your merchandise is sound. He circled her slowly. Indeed, perhaps even improved. My sources tell me you've developed certain abilities since your escape. Abilities that will fetch an extraordinary price with the right buyer. Marcus tensed, his finger hovering near the shotgun's trigger. For guards flanked Vaughn, each wearing the distinctive armor of Syndicate enforcers and carrying weapons that could atomize a human in seconds. Where's your human protector? Vaughn asked, scanning the dock. I'm sure he didn't abandon you after all the trouble he went through. He left. Sera lied smoothly. He accepted payment from a rival broker and left me on my own. Humans are greedy after all. Marcus almost smiled at that clever misdirection. Let Vaughn think humans were selfish cowards. It would make the surprise that much sweeter. Pity, Vaughn said. I had special plans for him. But business goes on. He waved to one of his guards. Secure her for transport and check for tracking devices. I don't want any surprises once we're in orbit. As the guard approached Sera, Marcus saw her tense slightly, the agreed signal. He took a deep breath, aimed, and fired. The first guard dropped before he knew what happened. The second barely managed to turn toward the catwalk before Marcus hit him with a second shot. The remaining guards found cover, returning fire and scorching the metal around Marcus's position. Meanwhile, Sera was far from helpless, using her psionic abilities to anticipate their movements. She slipped from one guard's grasp and struck a precise blow to a nerve cluster, a technique Marcus had taught her during their brief time together. The guard collapsed, temporarily paralyzed, but Vaughn, in the midst of the chaos, was disturbingly calm. He pulled a small, elegant weapon from inside his jacket and aimed it at Sera. Game over. The crime lord called out. Show yourself, human, or watch your Viridian lover die. Marcus met Sera's eyes from a distance. In that moment, something passed between them, a silent communication born from their growing bond. She nodded almost imperceptibly. I'm here, Vaughn, Marcus called out, training his shotgun on the Varian's head. Let's talk business. Kill me and the entire Syndicate network will know in seconds, Vaughn said, his obsidian eyes gleaming with cold confidence. My neural implant monitors my vital functions. If they fail, data packets automatically transmit to all Syndicate bases across 3 sectors. Your names, biometric data, and a very generous bounty. Marcus kept the shotgun trained on the crime lord's head. You're bluffing, am I? Vaughn smiled thinly. You've caused me considerable inconvenience, human. but I'm primarily a businessman. I appreciate competence, even in an inferior species. Inferior? Marcus snorted. Funny, I'm not the one with a gun to my head. Sera stepped forward. Despite her recent injuries, her movements were fluid. He's not bluffing. Marcus, I can sense the implant setting constant transmissions. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. Fascinating. Your abilities have developed even more than reported. He gestured to his remaining guard. Lower your weapon. The human won't shoot. You seem pretty sure of that. Marcus growled. Oh, I'm quite sure. Vaughn replied calmly. Because you're smart enough to recognize an opportunity when you see one. What opportunity? Marcus asked, not lowering his weapon. From my ship I have access to the entire Syndicate database. Vaughn explained. Names, operations, client lists, everything. That's information that would be very valuable to the right parties. Sera's eyes widened. You're offering to betray your own organization. I'm proposing a business transaction, Vaughn corrected. Access to information that will destroy my rivals within the Syndicate in exchange for my life. And freedom. A fair trade, wouldn't you say? Marcus and Sera exchanged a glance at the silent communication that had developed between them. The kind that only grows between those who face death together. We have a counteroffer. Marcus said, you give us access to the database, and we don't shoot you in the kneecaps and leave you for your rivals. Vaughn's confident smile wavered slightly. You wouldn't dare. Marcus took another step closer. You trafficked in sentient beings, tortured them, broke every bone in her body, and left her in an alley to die. Give me one reason to show you mercy, because you're human, Vaughn said simply. Your species has an unfortunate tendency toward misguided morality. It's your greatest weakness. It's our greatest strength, Marcus replied. Suddenly he changed his aim and fired not at Vaughn, but at his ship's control panel. The door sealed with a hydraulic hiss. No escape route now, in one fluid motion. Marcus leaped from the catwalk, his armor absorbing the landing as he touched down beside Sera. The remaining guard raised his weapon, but Sera was faster, striking a precise nerve cluster at the base of his neck. The guard collapsed, paralyzed. Your turn, Vaughn, Marcus said, re-aiming. The crime lord's composure finally cracked. You're making a terrible mistake. The only mistake was thinking you could own people, Sera said, her voice hard. Now give us the database access codes or we'll test the dead man switch theory. 10 minutes later, they stood inside Vaughn's ship. The crime lord bound to a chair while Marcus downloaded the entire Syndicate database to a portable drive. That's everything, Marcus said, scanning the files. Operations across 3 sectors, smuggling routes, client lists, bribes to officials enough to bring down the entire network. The Syndicate has survived worse. Vaughn said bitterly. Not like this, Sera replied, examining the ship's communication array. Not when the evidence is simultaneously transmitted to human authorities, Viridian leadership, and every major news agency in the sector. Marcus finished the download, slotting the drive into the ship's transmission system. Ready? Sera nodded, her fingers dancing over the controls. Transmission complete. By this time tomorrow, every law enforcement agency in this sector will be dismantling Syndicate operations. You've signed your death warrants, Vaughn snarled. I don't think so, Marcus said, pulling a small device from his armor. This neural disruptor will knock you out for about 6 hours. When you wake up, the dead man switch will still work. You'll just be in a human custody facility, charged by dozens of different governments. Vaughn lunged forward, but Marcus was ready, activating the disruptor. The crime lord slumped unconscious in the chair. We need to go, Sera said, looking at the dock doors. His allies will realize something's wrong soon. They ran to the Pathfinder. Marcus pausing only to signal Dr. Zoltek. The Wexelin emerged from hiding with Apollo by his side. Your plan worked, he chittered excitedly, mandibles chattering. Most impressive. Get inside, Marcus ordered. We're leaving Kronos forever. Minutes later, the Pathfinder pierced the atmosphere, leaving behind the station that had nearly cost them their lives. In the cockpit, Marcus plotted a course to the nearest human outpost while Sera monitored communication channels. It's working, she said, her glowing eyes wide with wonder. The transmissions are being received everywhere. Syndicate operations are being exposed sector-wide. Marcus activated autopilot and turned to her. We did it. You did it, she corrected, reaching for his hand. A human who chose compassion over indifference, who lifted the blanket instead of walking past. Marcus gently pulled her into his arms, careful of her still healing body. "I'm glad I found you. Even though I begged you to kill me?" she asked with a small smile. "Especially for that," he replied. "It's not every day you rescue someone who becomes your partner in taking down an interstellar crime syndicate." Her green fingers traced his jawline. "Am I just your partner?" Marcus's arms tightened around her. "You know you're more than that." Their lips met in a kiss that bridged the gap between their species of connection. That had begun with compassion, transformed through shared danger, and blossomed into something neither expected to find in this harsh corner of the galaxy. Later, as they lay together in the captain's quarters, the ship's engines creating a cocoon of privacy around them, Sera traced patterns on Marcus's chest. "What happens now?" she asked. "We'll be heroes for a while," Marcus said, his fingers running through her silver hair. "Human who rescued a Viridian scientist and exposed the syndicate. They'll want reports and testimonies. After that," Marcus considered the question. 6 days ago, he was a loner with a dog and a ship, taking whatever contracts kept him in fuel and supplies. Now everything had changed. "I was thinking," he said carefully, "the Pathfinder could use a navigation specialist, someone with intuitive abilities that complement my piloting skills." Sera's skin turned a darker green. "Are you offering me a job, Captain Vega?" "I'm offering you a home," he replied quietly. "If you want it." Her answer came not in words, but in the way she moved closer to him, her alien body fitting perfectly against his human one, different but harmonious, like their personalities and strengths dot as the Pathfinder carried them toward a new future. Marcus reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. A broken alien girl begging for death, a human man who chose compassion, launching both on a journey that transformed them. Apollo trotted into the room, settling at the foot of the bed with a contented sigh. Sera leaned down to scratch behind his ears, drawing a grateful groan from the Doberman. "He loved me from the very beginning," she observed. "He's always had good judgment of character," Marcus replied, pulling her closer. Outside the viewport, the stars streaked past as they left Kronos and its darkness behind. Ahead lay uncertainty, but also possibility, and they would face it together. If you enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe for more asterisk. The alarm shrieked through the Pathfinder 3 hours into their escape, shattering the fragile peace they'd found in each other's arms. Marcus bolted upright, his military training kicking in instantly. "What is it?" Sera asked, already pulling on her clothes despite the lingering ache in her healing bones. Marcus was at the cockpit in seconds, Apollo right behind him. The tactical display painted a grim picture for Syndicate pursuit ships, had dropped out of hyperspace behind them, closing fast. "Damn it," he muttered. "They must have tagged us somehow." Sera joined him, her luminous eyes scanning the readouts. Then her expression changed, that distant look he'd come to recognize when her psionic senses engaged. "Marcus," she said quietly, "it's not a tracker on the ship." "What do you mean?" She placed a hand on her chest, right over her heart. "It's me. They put something in me during the regeneration. I can feel it now, like a beacon burning in my cells." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Vorn, that bastard planned this from the start. The regeneration compound wasn't just medicine, it was a leash," Sera finished bitterly. "He knew I might escape. This way, he could always find his property." The word hung in the air between them, a bitter reminder of what she'd been to men like Vorn. Not a person, not a scientist, just merchandise with a tracking signature. "How long until they're in firing range?" she asked. 8 minutes, maybe 10. Marcus's fingers flew over the controls, calculating jump coordinates. "We can't outrun them in normal space, and if we jump, they'll just follow the beacon. Then we remove the beacon," Sera said with a calm that belied the fear in her eyes. "Dr. Zoltek can he extract it?" The Wexelin scuttled forward from where he'd been securing equipment in the cargo bay. "Extract what, exactly?" "If it's integrated into her cellular structure, surgery could kill her. The regeneration compound bonds at the molecular level. There has to be another way." Marcus growled, watching the pursuit ships grow larger on his display. Sera's hand found his, her green fingers intertwining with his darker ones. "Maybe there is. My abilities, they're tied to the compound somehow. If I can sense the tracker, maybe I can shut it down." "That's insane," Zoltek chittered. "You're talking about manipulating your own biochemistry with untrained psionic abilities." "The feedback could what? Kill me?" Sera's voice was steel. "They're going to kill us all anyway. At least this way. I'm choosing my fate instead of letting them choose it for me. Marcus pulled her close, their foreheads touching in that gesture that had become their own. You just got done healing. I'm not losing you now. You won't, she whispered, because you're going to buy me time. 10 minutes. Marcus, keep them off us for 10 minutes while I try to burn this thing out of my system. He wanted to argue, to find another solution, but the tactical display didn't lie. The Syndicate ships were spreading into an attack formation, cutting off escape vectors. 7 minutes now, he said roughly. Zoltek, get her strapped into the medical bay. Monitor her vitals. If anything goes wrong, I'll pull her back, the doctor assured him. Though I still think this is the most reckless plan your species has ever devised. We excel at reckless, Marcus replied, already powering up the Pathfinder's weapon systems. As Sera headed aft, she paused at the cockpit entrance. Marcus, he turned, memorizing every detail of her face, the silver hair, the luminous eyes, the green skin that had flushed so beautifully in his arms just hours ago. Don't die out here, she said. I've got plans for us. Despite everything, he grinned. Yeah, what kind of plans? The kind that involved me actually getting to see Earth. You promised to show me your homeworld. Remember? That's a date then. First round of drinks is on you, she smiled. That brilliant expression that transformed her alien features into something that made his heart ache. Then she was gone, Apollo trotting after her protectively. Marcus turned back to his controls, his expression hardening. The Pathfinder was an interceptor, fast and maneuverable, but lightly armed compared to Syndicate warships. In a straight fight, they'd tear him apart in minutes. Good thing he'd never believed in fair fights. The lead Syndicate ship opened communications. A Kravashi commander's scarred face filling the screen. Human vessel. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender the Viridian female and you may live. Here's my counteroffer, Marcus replied, his hands already moving. Go to hell. He cut the comm and threw the Pathfinder into a violent barrel roll just as the first barrage of pulse fire tore through the space where they'd been. The ship's inertial dampener screamed in protest, but held. Oh, you want to dance? Marcus muttered, weaving through the incoming fire. Let's dance. He'd flown interceptors in his military days, back when he'd been Lieutenant Vega of the Colonial Defense Force, before the court-martial, before the dishonorable discharge that had sent him wandering the galaxy looking for redemption, or oblivion. He'd never been sure which, but right now, with Sera fighting for her life in his med bay and Apollo standing guard over her, he knew exactly what he was fighting for. The Pathfinder wasn't just a ship. It was an extension of his will, and he flew it like a man possessed. He juked between the Syndicate vessels, forcing them to adjust their formation. When it got too close, he triggered his aft guns. Not to destroy, he didn't have the firepower, but to disrupt their targeting systems. In the med bay, Sera lay strapped to the examination table, electrodes monitoring her vital signs as Zoltek's compound eyes watched nervously. She closed her eyes, diving deep into herself, following the burning sensation in her chest. There, a crystalline structure, microscopic but brilliant, woven through her cardiovascular system like a spider's web, beautiful and deadly. She could feel it pulsing, broadcasting her location across subspace frequencies. Her newfound psionic abilities were raw, untrained, but desperation made her bold. She reached out with her mind, touching the foreign structure. Pain exploded through her nervous system. She screamed, her back arching against the restraints. Her neural activity is spiking. Zoltek chittered in alarm. If she continues, she knows what she's doing, Apollo growled, or would have, if dogs could speak. Instead, he whined and pressed his nose against her hand, offering what comfort he could. Sera gritted her teeth and pushed deeper. The tracker wasn't just technology, it was partially biological, grown into her cells during the regeneration. Vorn's people had been clever, but they hadn't counted on her developing psionic abilities. She found the tracker's power source, a quantum battery no larger than a grain of sand, and wrapped her consciousness around it. Heat built in her chest, literal heat, as she forced her body's own energy to overload the microscopic device. In the cockpit, Marcus was running out of tricks. The Syndicate ships had adapted to his tactics, boxing him in. His shield generator whined, already at 40% capacity. Come on, Sera, he muttered. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. A proximity alarm blared. One of the Syndicate ships had maneuvered into his blind spot, weapons charging for a kill shot. Marcus did the only thing he could. He shut down his engines entirely and let the Pathfinder drop like a stone in the microgravity. The enemies shot past harmlessly overhead, and Marcus immediately restarted his engines, using the momentum to spiral away. But they were learning, adapting. The net was closing. Then, suddenly, Sera's voice crackled over the internal calm, weak but triumphant. "It's done. The tracker's dead." Marcus didn't waste time celebrating. He immediately plotted jump coordinates and slammed the hyperspace drive to maximum. Reality twisted, and the Pathfinder punched through into the blue-white tunnel of faster-than-light travel. Behind them, the Syndicate ships hung in normal space. Their prey vanished from sensors. Marcus sagged in his seat, adrenaline crash hitting him hard. Then he was up and running to the medbay. Sera looked like death, her green skin pale, sweat soaking her silver hair, her body trembling with exhaustion. But she was alive, and she was smiling. "Told you. I had plans," she gasped. Marcus gathered her into his arms. "Restraints and monitoring equipment be damned. You insane. Brilliant. Beautiful." She kissed him, cutting off his words. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she whispered, "Take me to Earth, Marcus. I want to see where you come from. I want to understand what made you the kind of man who lifts blankets instead of walking away." "Earth," he repeated, the words strange on his tongue. He hadn't been home in 6 years, hadn't wanted to face the place that had rejected him, labeled him a disgrace. But with Sera in his arms, Apollo at their feet, and Zoltek chittering about impossible odds successfully overcome, Marcus realized something had changed. He wasn't running anymore. He was moving forward. "Earth," he agreed. "But first, we need to lay low for a while. Let the Syndicate data do its work. Once their network starts collapsing, we'll be yesterday's news." "I know a place," Zoltek offered. "An asteroid mining colony on the edge of the Outer Rim. No one asks questions. And they have medical facilities where I can complete Sera's regeneration properly." Marcus nodded. "Plot the course, Doc. We'll hole up there for a few weeks, let things cool down." As Zoltek scuttled off to the navigation console, Sera studied Marcus's face. "You're worried about something. I can sense it." He sighed. There was no hiding from those psionic abilities. "Going back to Earth. It's complicated. I left under bad circumstances. The military doesn't exactly welcome deserters with open arms." "You weren't a deserter," she said firmly. "You told me what happened. Your commanding officer ordered you to fire on a civilian transport. You refused. That's not desertion, that's honor." "The court-martial saw it differently," Marcus replied bitterly. "Disobeying a direct order during combat operations. Dishonorable discharge. They took everything: my rank, my pension, my reputation." Sera's hand found his cheek, turning his face toward hers. "They took what they could measure and quantify, but they couldn't take who you are. The man who stops to help broken aliens in alleys. The man who fights impossible odds to protect strangers. The man She stopped, suddenly uncertain. "The man you what?" Marcus prompted, his heart hammering. "The man I think I'm falling in love with," she finished softly. "If Viridians and humans can even love in compatible ways." Marcus pulled her closer, careful of her still healing body. "I think we're doing pretty damn well so far at being compatible." They stayed like that for a long moment, two beings from different worlds finding comfort in each other's arms while the ship carried them through hyperspace toward an uncertain future. But at least it was a future they'd face together. 3 weeks later, the asteroid colony of Haven's Edge proved to be everything Zoltek had promised. A rough and tumble collection of miners, smugglers, and people who preferred to exist outside the scrutiny of galactic authorities. Sera's regeneration completed under proper medical supervision, the last of her internal damage healing, without the risk of the tracking compound. She grew stronger each day, her psionic abilities stabilizing as her body finished its transformation. Marcus spent the time catching up on news feeds, watching with grim satisfaction as the Syndicate data dump created chaos across 3 sectors. Vorn had been arrested by a coalition of law enforcement agencies. Other Syndicate leaders fled or turned on each other. The network was cannibalizing itself. They were free. Really, truly free. But freedom, Marcus was learning, brought its own questions. What now? Where did a disgraced human pilot and a rescued Viridian scientist go from here? The answer came on a quiet evening in the cramped quarters on the colony. Sera was curled against him, tracing idle patterns on his chest. When she spoke, Marcus Do you remember what I said about plans? About seeing Earth? About that? Yes, but more. She propped herself up on one elbow, her luminous eyes serious. My people, the Viridians, we had a research project before the Syndicate attacked. We were studying ancient ruins on the edge of known space, structures that predate all current civilizations. Marcus felt a familiar tingle of excitement, the same feeling he'd gotten when he first joined the Colonial Defense Force. Before politics and corruption had soured him on institutional service. You want to go back. Finish the research. I want us to go back, she corrected. Those ruins hold secrets about the galaxy's past, about how different species can coexist, about technologies we've barely begun to understand. Her hand found his. I need a pilot I can trust, someone who understands that some things are worth fighting for. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering. Then a slow smile spread across his face. You're offering me a job, Dr. Sera? She grinned back. I'm offering you a partnership. Equal shares, equal say. Your ship, my research. We explore the unknown together. What about Earth? He asked. We'll get there, she promised. But maybe by the time we do, you'll have new accomplishments to show them. Not a disgraced soldier, but a partner in the greatest archaeological discovery of the century. Marcus laughed, the sound surprising him with its genuine joy. You make it sound almost respectable, with your flying and my research credentials. We might even get legitimate funding, she teased. Then her expression turned serious. I'm asking you to take a chance on me, Marcus, on us, on something bigger than just survival. He pulled her close, kissing her deeply. When they broke apart, his answer was simple. I took a chance on you the moment I lifted that blanket. I'm not stopping now. Outside their window, the asteroid colony spun slowly against the backdrop of distant stars, each one a potential destination, each one a new beginning. Inside, a human and an alien made plans for tomorrow, their differences becoming their greatest strength. And in the corner, Apollo slept peacefully, content in the knowledge that his human had finally found his pack. 6 months after discovering the ancient ruins, Marcus Vega stood on the observation deck of the Pathfinder, watching yet another sunset on yet another alien world. But this time, everything felt different. Sera approached from behind, wrapping her arms around his waist. Her green skin had taken on a healthy luminescence since they'd started their mission connecting compatible species across the galaxy. One world at a time, 3 more species made contact today. She said softly, the network is growing faster than we imagined. Marcus turned to face her, still amazed that the broken woman he'd found in that alley had become his partner in reshaping civilization and the Syndicate, collapsing. Without division to exploit, their business model is dying. She smiled. Turns out compassion is more profitable than cruelty. Apollo barked from his favorite spot, where he was being scratched by a grateful alien diplomat whose species had just joined the network. The Doberman had become the unofficial mascot of interspecies harmony. You know what I realized, Marcus said, pulling Sera close, that day on Kronos Station. When I lifted that blanket, I thought I was saving you. You were. She replied, no. He shook his head. You saved me. You gave me a purpose bigger than survival. You showed me that being broken doesn't mean being finished. Sera pressed her forehead to his. We save each other. That's how this works, and that's the real lesson, isn't it? That sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back. That compassion isn't weakness, it's the strongest force in the universe. So here's my question for you. Who's your Sera? Who's the person you walk toward instead of away from? Drop their story in the comments. And if you haven't found them yet, keep lifting blankets. Keep choosing compassion. Your life-changing moment is waiting. Subscribe for more stories about choosing connection over isolation, because in this galaxy, love is the ultimate rebellion.